the Packers dominate the Niners last night. The Packers did win, did cover. They hit the over, which was late. Bad kind of beat. Sorry, I gave you Packers in the under. My bad. That's a 1-1 night for me. You guys can decide how you want to count that against my numbers. We have our picks upcoming. What time's our picks? 2:15 West Coast, 5:15 East Coast, 5 college, 5 pro. Those are upcoming. But I was on Cowherd's show earlier today, and he was like, I don't really know what to take from last night. And look, part of my takeaway is you're playing against a depleted team. And a big part of this year in the NFL, any year in the NFL, but this year especially, is are you healthy, are you not? And there are certain levels of health and injury which you just can't be competitive. But we've done this thing with the Packers where last year they were 13-3, but they were kind of lucky, right? Remember that? Well, look at all these kind of luck wins. They're 13-3. They do have a loss this year to the Vikings last week, where they just got bludgeoned by a solid running game. And they do have a loss to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They had a 10-0 lead. Rodgers throws a pick 6, and it just became kind of a house of cards. That said, they're 6-2 on the season. They're a game up on the Bears in their division. They're not assured of being in the playoffs, but they're in pretty good shape. It should be pointed out the almighty NFC, has, are you ready for this? They have 7 teams who have a positive plus minus. 7 teams have a positive plus minus. Okay, point differential. And the Packers at 6-2, who don't have the best record, they've played one more game than the Seahawks. They're a plus 49. Now the Buccaneers, who beat the Packers, lost to the Saints, play them again, and the Packers, of course, beat the Saints. They're a plus 82. The Arizona Cardinals are a plus 57, and then the Green Bay Packers. So based upon point differential, they're the 3rd best team in the NFC. Based upon record, they're somewhere between the 2nd and 3rd best team in the NFC. And we act like, oh, ho-hum, they just took down the Niners. That was big for them. It doesn't matter that the personnel isn't that good or that there wasn't a single player on the San Francisco 49ers last night who played against them in the NFC Championship game. That style of offense had given them trouble. Additionally, we like to poo-poo their offense. The Packers are 16th in points per game. The Buccaneers are 7th. The Saints are 23rd. The Seahawks are 24th. Like, they're right in line to get to another NFC Championship game. They continue to accrue wins to play possibly at home this year. And if you don't think that's a difference maker when you get to the Arctic temperatures, it absolutely is. Absolutely is. And look, it's fair to say that usually running the football in the cold weather or in the windy weather or in the snowy weather is better. And with Aaron Jones, they're better, but they're still not a great running team. That's not what they do best. It's Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams that they do best. But if you live and play in the snow every day, you're going to be better at it than the Saints, than the Seahawks, than the Buccaneers, if they can get the Buccaneers at home. Like, we've done this thing to where there's nothing really the Packers can accomplish in the regular season that's going to impress people. Well, what did we learn last night? They dominated them. Aaron Rodgers made throws that only Aaron Rodgers can make. He sprinkled the ball around. They got Aaron Jones back to getting healthy. And as was their scheme, they want to get ahead and then unleash the pass rush on you. I'm okay if we all point out that the Niners are depleted, that those aren't their starters, that they beat the JV. Okay, but you can still see what a team looks like. Are they getting better? Are they getting worse? How are they responding? How you play your first couple of drives is, are you ready to play? And keep in mind, there was some talk that they wouldn't play last night because there were some guys, A.J. Dillon had the COVID thing. They had to leave some guys behind. So when you factor it all together, and you're like, you know what? Packers are a pretty good football team. What did we learn last night? We learned that they're a pretty good football team, that they're resilient to a lot of different things, that it isn't California that gets them beat. It's teams with a good scheme and really good personnel get them beat. That's what happened with the Chargers. That's what happened with the Niners going back to last year. Like, you don't have to freak out because they lost to the Vikings. They lost the game. They didn't play well. They lost a game to the Buccaneers. They come back the next week and throttle their next opponent. Like everyone thinks the Saints are pretty good. They beat the Saints handily. They'll have the Jaguars, which is like another week off, and then they start to creep back in the divisional play. Like they're going to lose at max 4 games. Max 4 games. Like they just don't have more losses on their schedule. And so every win, even against a bad team, is paramount for them. They still have the Colts on the road. They have the Titans at home. They got the Bears twice, but the Colts are a great defense. The Titans are a really good football team. You look at their schedule, and the most they could potentially lose really is 3 and probably 2. You get to 12-4 this year. You're playing at home once, maybe twice. You get to 13-3 like they were last year, and it's a distinct possibility. Now you could be playing at home every game, and that's what they want. And oh yeah, by the way, that's what Aaron Rodgers said they needed to do at the end of last year. Hey, we got to get to this place where we're playing this game against the Niners at home. What'd we learn? Devontae Adams might be a top 5 wide receiver. What'd we learn? Aaron Rodgers is absolutely an elite quarterback. Aaron Jones is back healthy, and they took care of business, and they looked sharp. They looked ready to play. Not every game needs to be some referendum on good player, bad player, great team, bad team. Sometimes it's just, are they sharp? Did they get on and off the field without getting injured? Did they look ready to play? Did they look like message received based upon how they played last week? And the answer was yes, 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 yes. Look, I'm looking at a game, and I want to be reasonable about the standings and what's possible. Okay, so Pittsburgh's going to make the playoffs, right? Whether they win the division or not, they're going to make the playoffs. And I look at, and Kansas City's going to make the playoffs. Right now, it used to be we had the 4 division winners, right? And we had 2 wild cards. And we've added a wild card this year, right? So we have 3 wild card teams. Okay. So let's do some math here on what this Tennessee game actually means. Okay, so the Tennessee Titans are on a 2-game losing streak. They've beaten Houston. They've beaten Buffalo, a team that they could have a tiebreaker with in the AFC. Everybody else they've beaten, Houston, Minnesota, Jacksonville, Denver. Those aren't playoff teams, but still those wins do in fact count. They have a game coming up against the Colts next week. That's a big one. They still have to go to Baltimore. They still have to go to Indy. Still have to go to Green Bay. Okay, later on in the year. I feel like though that Tennessee is a little more solid because no matter how much Tannehill struggles, Tannehill signed a new contract, so they're kind of all in on the Tannehill thing, whereas the Bears, they don't know what to do. I mean, I know Mitch Trubisky's not going to play because he's had his shoulder examined, so they're stuck with Foles. I look at the Bears. Here the Bears are 5-3. They too have lost 2 in a row to the Rams, to the Saints. Now they have Tennessee. They still have to go to Green Bay. They get Green Bay twice. They have some winnable games on their schedule. I almost feel though like at some point we get to elimination time. And I don't know if Tennessee's there, but a 3-game losing streak at this point in the season, especially considering how they played against the Bengals last week. It doesn't mean that it's an end your season and start tanking, but boy, it really changes how you look at what the end of their season could look like. This was a team that we were told had Super Bowl aspirations. I don't put them in that tier now, didn't put them in that tier before, but I do respect what they've done up front and how they can dominate and how that style of football does translate once you get to the postseason, as it did last year. And I think they got a really smart coach, and they're a very well-coached defense. But, dude, they look like Keystone Cops last week in Cincinnati. They went to the AFC Championship game and started the season 5-0 to, oh my gosh, did they make a Blake Bortles-like signing with Ryan Tannehill? When, remember last year they went to the AFC. Remember the Jaguars went to the AFC Championship game and re-signed Bortles and extended it. Remember that? Like, is that where we are with Ryan Tannehill? Is there just such limitations to what he can do? It's interesting because statistically, Tannehill's been fantastic. 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions so far this year. But it wasn't the pick last week is 233 yards, considering they were trailing the whole week. And their best wins of the season, he's thrown the fewest amount of times. So I'd be interested. This is a fascinating game, especially for the Titans. Especially for the Titans. The Bears, we kind of felt like they were fortunate anyway. They probably should have won last week. But we kind of felt like they're just hanging around based upon their defense. Their defense outscores their offense.